Hello Zimbabwe and welcome to Livetalk, The Connection, a platform where we discuss issues affecting young people. We are coming to you live from Studio 7 at the Voice of America in Washington. I am your host, Taboka Ngube. Today on Live Talk, we are reviewing the year 2023, focusing on political, economic and social issues affecting young people in Zimbabwe. But first, let's take a look at what is happening in the other parts of the world. The UN says Malawi is home to tens of thousands of refugees fleeing conflict in Africa's Great Lakes region. However, human rights groups say some are being rounded up and moved against their will. Chimwemwe Padatha has more from Lilongwe in Malawi.
Tusaid Farini has been living in Malawi's Dzaleka refugee camp for 10 years after fleeing unrest in his home country, the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Because I was working as a human rights defender, and in a country called the Democratic Republic of Congo, you can just see democracy is only through the name, but it's not in reality. So, yeah, that's why we decided to leave the country.
The Dzaleka refugee camp, originally built to hold 12,000 people, is home to over 50,000 refugees and asylum seekers, mostly from the DRC, Burundi, and Rwanda. An estimated 8,000 have settled in the country's rural and urban areas, and most are well integrated into communities, the UN says. In March, Malawi ordered them to return to the camp, and in May, authorities forcibly relocated about 900 of these refugees to Dzaleka, an exercise human rights bodies say was a violation of their rights. Refugees say they were beaten and their children were exposed to harsh conditions, including imprisonment, during the forced relocation. Now, refugees and advocacy groups such as FGK Umuza Foundation and others sent a letter in October seeking recourse at the International Criminal Court, or ICC. Machona Piri is the liaison officer for Inua Advocacy.
As at 5th September of this year, we had submitted 36 cases to the ICC, and these cases included issues of gang rape, issues of extortion and bribery by suspected police officers.
The ICC has yet to respond to the October letter by the refugees and their representatives. In the meantime, the Malawi Human Rights Commission has asked law enforcement agencies to investigate the allegations, says Peter Chisi, the Commission's Director of Civil and Political Rights.
Law enforcement agencies have been accused of stealing money as well as property from the refugees. There have also been allegations of violations of children's rights, especially, for instance, where children were detained with adults in prison. There are also some allegations that some women have been sexually abused and so on and so forth.
Chisi said these abuses happened in May during the forced relocations. But Malawi Minister of Information Moses Kunkuyu says that the government imposed the relocation according to the law and is committed to protecting the rights of refugees and asylum seekers.
The process was communicated that we would want to make sure that in line with international protocols, those that are called refugees, they must really be accorded the status of refugee.
The African Commission on Human and People's Rights says Malawi has regressed in the protection of refugee rights since the government issued a similar 2021 directive for refugees residing outside Dzaleka camp. Chimwemwe Padatha, VOA News, Lilongwe, Malawi.
For those that have just joined us, please note that we are streaming live on our Facebook pages VOA Shona, VOA Studio 7 and VOA Ndebele. We are also live on YouTube, VOA Zimbabwe. Today, we are reviewing the year 2023, focusing on political, economic and social issues affecting young people in Zimbabwe. A young entrepreneur based in Kadoma, Ropafadzo Mutemeri, says although the year started off badly for her, things got better along the way.
2023 ranga rakaoma zvaimboita azosvika nani but ranga rakaoma intoita zvekufona saka pakusona apa macustomers aisanyanyouya paisambouya maorders akambonyanyowanda taigona kutoswera takatogara magetsi ariko chimbomirira zvigaba zvinhu zvakaoma hazvo but ezvino izvi zvanani hazvo zvakunotosvinga ubatikawo mari dzaiti tigobatika but ndizvozvo ngatimboona pagore rinotevera ra 2024 zvakamira sei.
That was Ropafadzo Mutemeti, a young entrepreneur based in Kadoma and an advocate for young people's rights who once worked with the World Federation of United Nations as a youth advisor. Macleo Mapfumo says 2023 was full of serious challenges.
2023 njengomuntu wonke uyakula ama-plans ukuthi nami 2023 ngifuna ukuthi ngimithe lokhu lalokhu but sesikhangela khathesi 2023 sephelile njengathina abancane vela sibona ukuthi akula asi-achievanga anything 2023 kade silama-aspirations into at least ama-elections azakwanisa ukuthi atshintshe izinto i-situation i-economy vele izathi itshintshe lathi sithole imisebenzi but lapha sesibona ukuthi 2023 sokuba worse and vele asisela optimism ukuthi 2024 uyabe njani ngoba sikhangele lapha ukuthi 2023 ubenzima ukuthi siphile.
Macleo Mapfumo is an advocate for young people's rights. He once worked with the World Federation of United Nations as a youth advisor. Please stay tuned as we take a brief break.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
For those that have just joined us, today we are reviewing the year 2023, focusing on political, economic and social issues affecting young people in Zimbabwe. To discuss this issue, we are joined on the phone by Stabile Gandhi Ndlovu, who runs an after-school literacy program, Emily Ncube, an entrepreneur, and we are looking forward to speaking to other youths as the program progresses. Welcome to Livetalk, ladies.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. We will start with you, Stabile. Looking at the year 2023, how has it been for you?
I think what I can say is 2023 started off quite challenging. And as recent events to do with climate change have shown, it seems like it's off to a bad end. Really, I think one of the main challenges for me was the issues to do with the economic decline, which is as a result of government and private sector's inability to access long-term credit. As a result, this has really stifled the growth of industry and in turn social and economic development. So I saw as young people, this is something that is really causing us to have a lot of success, and it's really a pain point for the youth. But also 2023 was an election year, so that means that there was a lot of conservation from the investors, and not a lot of money was coming into the country. And finally, the impending drought of 2024, which is affecting people's livelihoods and food security. These three, for me, are kind of have been the big highlights that show that there's been a bit of challenges in 2023, but I use the word challenges intentionally to say that this is actually an opportunity for young people and an opportunity for entrepreneurs to see how we can navigate these challenges for the growth of our country.
Thank you, Stabile. We will go to you, Emily. You heard what she had to say about the year 2023. What's your take looking at the economic situation, the political situation, and just how young people fared this year?
Okay, talking of the economic situation, it's just going tough. Just looking at the economic hardships, cost of living, it's very high. Looking at the school fees, it's high. And even the infrastructure itself, the development, it's just poor. Imagine the roads. There are potholes all over. Like right now, it's raining. The potholes have become like dens. Yeah, it's another economical challenge that we are facing. Instead of being like traveling smoothly, and it is also about, I can say, numerous challenges that we have sailed through the whole year with corporate units and community assistance through engagement of notable projects. A lot of youth are being engaging themselves into projects. Of course, some of those projects, they can be beneficial. Some of those projects, they can not succeed in terms of funding levels. I can say we are thriving, yeah.
Thank you. Coming back to you, Stabile, we look at what you were saying about the year for 2023. What do you look forward to for 2024? Sikhangela kakhulu abatsha laphana abasakhulayo. Yes, Stabile.
I think in Japan, when I 2024, I think the first is the issue of drug and substance abuse, which has become a real pandemic. I'm happy that the government has actually declared it a national disaster, and there's been a task force that has been put in place from the highest levels of government down to what level, just to try and go into communities and find out what is happening, and abantwana bangancedwa ngani ukuthi bangabi ngabantu asebetshona besenze kwezidakamizwa. So I think ukuthi kuqakathekile ukuthi ngingakungena 2024 kube lama-programs abakhona ukuthi ancedise ama-youth, firstly ukuthi babe le-education on drug and substance abuse, how it's harmful and how it impacts lives. But secondly, kube lama-programs ancedisa ama-youth who are already affected by drug and substance abuse. And then I think one of the other important things that need to be looked at in 2024 is access to e-capital, to both start new businesses but to also grow the existing businesses, because in 2023 it was a huge challenge for young people to get access to capital. And then I also think it's important ukuthi ama-youth ancedise ukuthi bathole ama-skills training, abancedise ukuthi khona bafundise technology and things in line with the fourth industrial revolution, AI, artificial intelligence, and the jobs for the future, skills and resources that will make them relevant in the growing economy and really so that the country can attain Vision 2030, which is an upper middle class economy, which will mean better social and economic standards for everyone. And I think that there is a need to revive our vocational training centers and revive our farmer youth centers down to district and ward level so that youth can have a place where they are able to channel their energy, they're able to learn, relearn, skill, upskill, and just be able to harness their potential and harness their minds to be able to impact positively in communities.
Thank you. We are also joined on the line by Comfort Mpofu, a student activist. Welcome to the program, Comfort. Comfort, can you hear me? Welcome to the program.
I can hear you.
Yes, Comfort, you heard what the ladies had to say about the year 2023. What's your take now looking at mainly issues that affect students?
Sorry, what did you say?
Yes, Comfort, I'm saying looking at the year 2023, what would you say about the challenges or the successes that you went through as students in Zimbabwe?
Well, thank you so much for this platform. At first, I would like to talk about the challenges that we made as students, because as students, we have made more challenges than our successes in Zimbabwe, in the sense that we have faced high fees hikes in different tertiary, actually in all tertiary institutions. There were fees hikes. That we ended up seeing some students deferring, some students even dropping out. For example, I had this parent, or like the parents will be having trust with him. There's someone from Blawayo who is a student leader who can help someone who is a student leader who can help their child to get scholarships and all. But that is something which is not there in our country, Zimbabwe, whereby we don't have those platforms to help those students who are in need. Hence, we face our students, we're now dropping out. We then look at the social life and the welfare of our students in Zimbabwe, which is something that is actually so disheartening in the sense that we have different students who now end up committing to different ways to make sure that their social welfare is well taken care of. In the sense that we have the girl child who is now exposed or who is now vulnerable to some issues place a student. Now, if you cannot be used as an place, therefore in the name of it, a total imali, a campus, that's a challenge. And then we talk about the new education 5.4 curriculum, which is being done in our universities. Let's talk about the University of Zimbabwe in particular. I would like to believe Honorable Fabema is the chair for tertiary education, once posted or once tweeted about the issue of AMA modules which are being done. All the AMA students now, this year, we got to realize that they are now doing certain modules. That is nothing to do with your degree. Those are the challenges that we face. And other successes that we face as AMA students, I would really love to think about the successes, and I can't even come up with any success that we face as AMA students. I'll be lying if I say the AMA successes that we face, because we also had AMA student leaders who then try and advocate for AMA rights, the academic freedom for AMA students, but then instead of that thing being fruitful or anything, they end up being incarcerated, which we cannot consider as having had anything as successful as AMA students. Instead, our plight is not hit, and 2023 was just a tough year for each and every student, because they had to make sure they had a hard time in making sure that they survive the year 2023.
Thank you, Comfort. I'll come back to you, Stabile, there. As someone who works with young people and helps young people to develop in terms of professionally and in their academics, what's your take regarding what Comfort has just said? Yes, Tabile, you can go ahead.
Thank you. I think firstly, it is true that we have faced some of the challenges that Comfort did mention, but I think it would be a gross mistake to then not mention some of the successes that are equally important that young people have had access to. So for starters, at the beginning of the year, government, through the presidential agriculture scheme, permits to young people that afforded them the opportunity to have 10 hectares of land. So far, this program has been rolled out in Mashonaland West and Matabeleland South, and you can see that young people are benefiting from this scheme and are able to then become part of the agriculture value chain. I think this is a way in which government has also tried to put an effort to ensure that youth are benefiting in land allocation, but are also involved in mainstream agriculture. Secondly, there is a program that was introduced called the Eagle's Nest, which is a youth export incubator program that seeks to promote e-culture exports amongst young people and just to help young people who are business owners to grow their businesses and actually then impact the export sector of the economy. And this program is being run by Trade, which traditionally was working with bigger exporters and bigger companies, but has now realized the need to have young people being molded and able to level as their leaders of the future to start learning the skills they need to be part of the export business. There was also, which I think is very important, that will help to actually alleviate some of the issues that Comfort was speaking about, which was the introduction of the youth MP quota and the introduction of the youth and women's council quota. This means that we now have young people at the center of our discussions around its policy, around issues of government to do with the country at large, but certainly voice yabantu abatsha in these discussions. That means that youth can now talk about the plight of students in universities. You can now speak about the plight of the expense in exercise books and textbooks and all the issues that young people face and all the challenges that need to be resolved. We now have a youth voice from the highest level of government and policy making, which is the House of Assembly, down to a local authority where issues are discussed at ward level. So I find this to be a very interesting development. But also on education, there's been the introduction of e-Education 5.0, which is a model that uses teaching, research, community service, and innovation as a way to teach in our tertiary and university institutions how young people can use their natural resources and their local resources for social and economic development. But still on education, in 2023, the national budget for the year that just ended, Treasury allocated 9.8 billion towards infrastructure development at universities, which means that government was actually aware of some of the issues that need the voice of young people, that need the will and the human resources and the intellect that comes with the young people, so that they can also use universities and polytechnics and agricultural colleges to help young people to fulfill their national mandates in line with the development agenda.
Thank you.
I think Uguti, while there's been these challenges, efforts have been made to mitigate them.
Thank you there, Stabile. Comfort, coming back to you. You had explain what government is doing. Do you think a government is doing enough, or you still feel like, no, there is more that needs to be done? And if there is more that needs to be done, what really needs to be done to benefit especially young people?
Okay, thank you. I heard what my sister Tabile just said, which is a good thing, and I appreciate what the state government has been doing. But then now the question comes back to my sister, if the government is doing all those kind of activities and programs in order to help the youth, which youth are we talking about? Because if you are talking about such programs, and personally I would say that I have never heard about those programs. Now, are those programs advertised or published to every youth on university campuses or different places to see and take part in? That's the issue that the government has to look into. They have to make sure that those kind of programs, they are advertised for everyone to apply, every youth to apply. Because if you can make a quick survey, maybe let's use the University of Zimbabwe or the Middle State University, about the youth or students who know about those kind of activities, I can tell you that you'll be shocked about the number. Yes, the activities might be there, but which youth or which students are benefiting from those activities, because everyone has to benefit from those activities. That's the issue, and the government has to really make sure that they work in making sure that those activities or programs are open for everyone, and everyone is allowed to partake in those programs. If they are doing those programs, I'm actually looking forward that in 2024, those programs are open to everyone who is a youth, a Zimbabwean youth, despite of maybe affiliations or anything, but those programs must be open to everyone. Then we take back to the issue of Education 5.0. Yes, I didn't discard Education 5.0 as a whole. It is its advantages and its disadvantages. Well, its advantages, like my sister Tabile mentioned them all. Those are advantages of Education 5.0. But then it is my downsides are that are being overlooked, that have to be ratified. My downsides are we're looking at the issue in Mama molecules, which in terms someone who is doing medicine is expected to do something, change history, and all. That's waste of time. Then you look at the modular learning, modular system learning. Okay, where's the modular learning? Modular learning, you have to learn your module or modules 2 in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you're writing your exam. Now let's take a look at my scientists whom we are grooming, which a scientist is supposed to know this concept in 3 weeks, and then they move to the next. Let's look at doctors or medicine is a bit different, though, but then they also now have a limited time to grasp certain concepts. Now those are my downsides. Education 5.0. However, these disadvantages, my sister mentioned them. Then we have the issue in EMA community services. But at some point, it's more like students are being exploited and those kind of things. What am I referring to? We have an issue in one of our universities whereby
Thank you, Comfort. Thank you, Comfort. Unfortunately, our time ran out there. It seems there was a lot to discuss today. Let me take this opportunity to thank you all for coming on the program. That brings us to the end of our show. Signing off in Washington, I am Taboka Ngube.